On February 27, 2017, just about a year ago, I started a new daily vlog called Building a Better Me. It lasted less than 2 weeks. In the last year, I've relearned a lot about patience, humility, and the need for honesty in making goals. I'm an enthusiastic person. I discover something new and I like it and I want to jump in fully. That goofy grin right there tells you forward is all in. But the problem with such first step excitement is you hit obstacles, are forced down detours. You realize your optimism is full of holes. And your idea to change the world was another pie-in-the-sky wish fulfillment dream. Today on Building a Better Me, it's about the next million steps after taking that first one. The first step is important, but every step after that is even more important. Will you adjust? Will you continue? Will you course correct or backtrack if need be? It's an exercise in honest self-evaluation and reassessment of goals on this Million Little Steps edition of Building a Better Me. My name is Ford Suze. I'm 36 years old, and I'm starting over. My previous adventure was outward, living my dream of discovering India and sharing it with the world. But this new adventure is inward, facing my lifelong struggle with depression and finding renewed purpose. Join me on this new journey of self-discovery and personal reinvention, building a better me. Today I want to talk about 3 people who have helped me course correct in the last month. But first, an observation from Melissa as she's been reading Brandon Sanderson's Oathbringer. Sanderson is mine and Melissa's favorite fiction writer. He's a storytelling genius. All right, the most important step boy from Melissa here. She submitted this, and he'd once believed he had been 4 men in his life, but he now saw he'd grossly underestimated. He hadn't lived as 2 or 4 or 6 men. He had lived as thousands. For each day, he became someone slightly different. He hadn't changed in one giant leap, but across a million little steps. The most important always being the next.
Sanderson's so good.
Brandon Sanderson.
Talk about consistency. Consistency to change yourself from who you are to what you want to be. It takes 1,000 little changes and steps.
Those million little steps that follow the first one are so important, as are the people you come across in your journey. If you're stubborn, you're going to come across people who give you good advice, but you'll keep on going and probably find yourself in a dead end or at the bottom of a pit somewhere because you were too proud to course correct. The 3 people who have helped me manage my expectations, take a few steps back, and be a bit more prudent in these last couple of weeks are Dr. Frank Merritt from Vitality Pro, a young man named Drew, who I met through family in Alabama, and my cousin Henry. First up is Dr. Frank of Vitality Pro, the pulmonary focused fitness program I've been learning a lot from in this whole process of building a better me. Dr. Frank is meticulous about safety in these camps to increase lung health and breathing capacity because the dangers are real. In one of these camps at Laird Hamilton's pool, Orlando Bloom, yes, that Orlando Bloom, had some complications related to a phenomenon called shallow water blackouts. Dr. Frank studied this phenomenon and discovered that one of the most dangerous moments in a water-based activity is the minute after coming up for air. This is why he encourages a buddy system with a spotter in case fainting happens while someone is in the water. Dr. Frank kindly reprimanded me this week for doing my exercises out in the Gulf without a spotter. I was going to brush it off because I have always surfed by myself, and I've had some close run-ins with rip currents and those kind of things. And I'm like, whatever, I'll be fine. But over 3,000 people die every year from drowning. Just this week, while my cousin Henry was visiting, an elderly man washed up on the beach dead. At the place I surfed at just yesterday, St. Andrew State Park, years back at the same place, when I was a kid, I witnessed a man die on the beach when CPR failed to revive him after drowning. So I realized it's time for me to course correct, listen to Dr. Frank. A buddy system is better, and I don't want anybody following my example and dying because they're reckless in the water. Again, it's hard to believe over 3,000 people a year, y'all, dying from drowning, accidental drowning deaths in the United States of America. But doing this course correction left me at a bit of an impasse this week because I had started to get into the rhythm of doing these Waterman workouts. I was developing a discipline, and now I got to course correct. If you're in Panama City and you want to do a Waterman workout a couple times a week, let me know. Until then, I needed something to tide me over physically. My cousin Henry showed up. He is in the military and was telling me about morning physical training, and that led to a challenge. All right, I'm all sweaty this morning because I just did a run with my cousin Henry. He's in the military. So he's talking about his schedule, on his daily schedule when he's going to work. They wake up and they do PT. They wake up at like 5 a.m. or whatever, and he goes out and he does his drills and every morning. And I was thinking about how that really must set the pace for your day and how I really think it would benefit businesses and the government, people who don't necessarily need to be physically fit. I bet it would really help their productivity, being able just to keep, again, that well-roundedness thing. Like, we're human beings, we're physical beings, we're not mental beings, we're not emotional beings solely. We're all of these things together. So I was talking about how good it would be, and so he just kind of was like, oh, well, why don't we run now? I'm like, oh, man, do we have to? So we ran yesterday, and then this morning he was like, well, come on in the morning, 6:30, we'll go for a run. It's like, all right. So I'd gone further than I went the couple days before, so yesterday, so he's like, we'll try to get to 3/4 of a mile. I was like, okay. So he pushed me, I got 3/4 of a mile this morning. It's like, you know, from starting from kind of scratch, it's like, okay, well, I think I could add a little bit to this every day, you know, and get in better shape. So we're coming back, and he's like, so you think you'll keep doing it? I was like, well, yeah. He's like, are you motivated to keep doing it? I was like, I'm not motivated, but I need to. And so last thing he said before he walked in the house was, we'll keep it consistent. He was like, keep it cross-cultural, we'll keep it constructive, keep it consistent. And I was like, oh man. When we started this channel, it was keep it creative, keep it quality, and keep it constructive, I think. And then I changed it to cross-cultural when we went to India. And we've had all these things that we've added to it. Stay strong, stay glorious, keep going. If you have a hard time doing that, hold on. I like those things, but I might just change it to keep it creative, keep it cross-cultural, keep it constructive, and keep it consistent, because that kind of gets the holding on thing. And we gotta keep our alliteration, baby. Keep it consistent. If you give up 3 steps in, the next step is always the most important step. It's not the first step. It's the 101st step. It's the 1001st step. You may not be going exactly in the same direction you thought you would be going when you started. You know, that doesn't mean you keep the exact same trajectory. You're probably having to make some course corrections along the way. Maybe you have to backtrack, but that takes another step. You know, you may have 200 steps in the backward direction to get around that obstacle, but that's still another step. Got to keep it consistent. So there you go.
Yesterday, I ran my first solo mile, did it at 7:30 pace. Not a bad progression from only being able to do less than a half a mile a week ago. So thank you, Henry. I'm going to try to keep it consistent. The third person I want to mention today is a young man named Drew. He's a friend of the family who used to play a lot of League of Legends with me. He saw one of my Building a Better Me episodes and invited me to join a Slack group called The Crash, based on the ideas presented in a book called Rhinoceros Success. Now, one of my weaknesses is being too enthusiastic about some things and being too much of a hipster cynic in other things. When I started reading this book, I was pretty cynical about it. It's mixing a lot of metaphors. It's written very simply, and as an aspiring writer, I not really like the writing style at all. But this is something that I've learned, and I often choose to forget in life, is that just because you hate somebody's presentation doesn't mean you can't learn from them. And this book has helped me face something that I'm really bad about, which is lack of focus. In the book, he talks about if you have a magnifying glass and you're trying to start a fire with it, you know, like if you tilt it just the right way when the sun is hitting it, you can actually start a fire if you hold it in the right place at the, you know, long enough. But he says what a lot of people do is they don't hold the magnifying glass in the right place. They just start moving it all around. Like, why isn't anything catching on fire? Because you're dissipating your focus into like 100 different places. You've got to stay concentrated in one area. And so he advocates that you get a little 3x5 card, put it next to your bed. On one side, and this is the kind of thing that my hipster critic in me hates. He says, I'm a night... You're supposed to read it when you go to sleep at night and when you wake up in the morning. And it says on one side, I'm a rhinoceros. I have a damn the torpedo spirit. I am full of energy and I can't wait to get up in the morning to start charging. Can't tell you how many times I've read that and wanted to shoot myself in the head. It's not an appropriate joke, sorry. On the other side, you're supposed to write your goal. And you need to make it as specific and focused as possible. So I made cleanliness mine. My room is a lot more clean. I have successfully established a discipline of keeping a clean room, clean cash book, and clean computer. March 1st, 2018, on to the next. But I can definitely tell I've got a little bit of a spark going here. It's been more focused than a lot of my goals. When I first started the group, I shared some of my goals, and they were just so absurdly impossible. They were up like in 1,000 different areas. So doing the little note card thing before sleep and after waking up has actually been very helpful and helped me focus quite a bit. So I'm thankful to Drew for inviting me to this group and kind of helping me manage my expectations a little bit. I feel a little weird because I'm like the oldest dude in there, but it's been pretty, invigorating seeing these kids really
really intent on their goals, really going after them, and at the same time being realistic about them. Having the energy, but also being realistic about the types of goals they're making. And that's helped me kind of rein some of my more absurd goals in just a bit. In any endeavor, we are going to hit dead ends, make wrong turns, and run a little too fast at the wrong angle. If we're serious about the goal, it will require humility, patience, and willingness to accept good advice. And now, thanks to Henry, we have an even longer sign-off.
Muchachos, now we have like a million things. So keep it creative, cross-cultural, constructive, and consistent.
Stay strong, stay glorious.
Keep going, and if you can't do that, hold on.
Hold on. The next step is the most important step. Boy. This is going to be like, by the end of it, it's going to be a manifesto of its own.
It's going to be like a monologue. Our sign-off is just going to be a monologue.
I am long-winded, so it makes sense.